Good day, everyone. This is Keziah Marie reporting, and I will be discussing about decolonizing environmental science. So, before we start, I have a question. So, what is decolonizing environmental science? So, decolonizing environmental science is we are talking about moving away from a science that is centered only on Western ideas. Instead, we want to recognize local culture, indigenous knowledge, and different ways of understanding nature. In other words, it's about making science more fair, more exclusive, and more connected to communities. So, first is recognizing stakeholders with different values. So stakeholders are group or individuals affected by or involved in environmental issues like government, indigenous peoples, or industries or local residents. They also have different values, cultural, economical or ecological priorities that shapes decisions. So, when we talk about the environment, we have many people involved. Like just what I've said earlier, it includes indigenous groups, government, industries, and local residents. Each group has different needs and goals. So, like for example, the Boracay closure in 2018, they closed businesses needed income. Tourists also wanted beaches, and then the government wanted rehabilitation. But many locals were affected. So, decolonizing environmental science means also listening to all voices, not just one side. So, also in historical context, before communities living sustainably with land, and after population growth, increased pressure on environment. So let's move to indigenous people versus industries, government, developers in the Philippines. So indigenous people, Dumagat, Rimondo, Igorot, Lumad, and Aita, are also caretakers of nature. They they um they they preserve our nature. They also take care or protect our forests, rivers, and mountains as sacred. Sustainable living practices. They practice sustainable living. And then in industries, governments, and developers, they view environment as an economic resource. Their goal is to maximize use for development and also depend on projects for water supply, energy, economic growth. So, next is, let's move to rethinking resource extraction. So, here, we also have provided picture. So in historical context, in colonial period, colonizers exploited lands for gold, spices, and agricultural products like sugarcane, tobacco, rice, or abaca. Extracted by colonizers for profit, leaving natives exploited. So, so in present day, mining nickel. So, sorry. So rethinking resources extraction. Resources extraction means things that like mining, logging, or building dams. These actions bring money, but they also brings damage. So when we say kuan ta like kanang mag-mining ta, of course it can give profits um to people, but it also damages our nature. It also gives effect to our society. And so, like for example, in Palawan, nickel mining, just like I've said earlier. So, nickel mining provides jobs, yes, but it also destroys mountain, pollutes rivers, and affects the land of indigenous tribes. So, decolonization makes us ask a big questions like who really benefits? This one. So, who really benefits, who suffers the most, and are indigenous people included in the decision? So, they're still driven by profit, often harming environment and communities. So, so this so so Philippines today's case study, impacts of mining Palawan and Benguet. So it has three, so mo ni siya mga kuan, mga like mo ni siya case study sa katong impact sa mining sa Palawan and Benguet. So deforestation, water and soil pollution, displacement of indigenous communities. Communities and ecosystems pay the price. So sila ang ga-suffer because of the mining impact sa Palawan. Claim benefits, industries, and argument. So national economic growth. They also kaning ansay profit aning ay kaning ilang gibuhat nga ang impact sa mining also, they also claim benefits from it, ang industries, but ang katong mga locals like indigenous communities kay sila mo nagsuffer from kaning ilahang gibuhat na mining anang lugar. So national economic growth, so it also kuan sa ato ang growth sa ato ang economy, and job creation. So of course, when it comes to mining, you need people to do the job. So raw materials for global trade. So mining farmed as necessary for progress. So yeah. So there in the case study of the Philippines, like in Kaliwa dams, threatens Sierra Madre forests and displacement Dumagat Remontado communities. Also, Palawan mining damages ecosystems and affects indigenous food resources. In Boracay closure, help nature recover but hurt tourism and livelihood. All of these cases show a conflict between development and environmental injustice. So, environmental racism. Environmental racism happens when a certain groups, usually poor or marginalized, are exposed to more pollution and danger. So just like this, poor communities live near waste sites, wealthier areas stays protected. So as you can see, katong mga marginalized people kay nagin sila sa kanang mga polluted areas nagstay, but katong mga rich kay safe sila, like dili polluted ilahang areas. So mas give priors, like murag kana ganing kuan sila, mas kanang mas labaw sila sa ilahang kuan, sa ilahang gipuy-an compare aning mga tao nga naa sa kuan, naa sa poor communities. So environmental problems do not affect everyone equally. The poor and the marginalized are often the most at risk because it's not only the kuan kanang sa ilang environment, but also they can kuan og health problems. So understanding environmental racism and injustice. So environmental injustice when certain groups suffers more from pollution and destruction than others. So just what like I've discussed. So often poor and marginalized communities bear the heaviest burden. So for example, kanang more on sa mga tao nga protected ilahang area or wealthier sila, ang kanang mga, let's say, ilahang mga waste kay mapunta sa katong kuan marginalized communities because they stay in they live near waste sites. So they carry the heaviest burden. Philippines examples like katong sa Boracay in 2018. So overdevelopment, so they cause pollution. Locals relying on tourism, so they lost income. So also in Manila Bay, reclamation, so fisher folks and coastal families displaced, and commercial projects benefits businesses. So so the role of indigenous knowledge is are not just learning from nature, they have been practicing science for generations. Their knowledge comes from experience and respect, not only from textbooks. So it's important to balance the knowledge of indigenous people and those new practices as well, but mas importante jud nga magkuan kanang mag ato ang i-practice ang pag-decolonize sa ato ang mga kuan karon because it affects our environment and we also suffer from it. So I will give an example of it. So during typhoons, many traditional homes and communities warning systems actually protects people better than modern methods alone. So it like naay kanang uban nga like kanang traditional bitaw nga mga practices kay mas maka-protect pa siya sa mga tao better kaysa ato mga bag-o nga modern nga nga methods. So in conclusion, to summarize everything, decolonizing environmental science help us value indigenous wisdom, avoid discrimination, and create solutions that are sustainable and more just. It reminds us that science is not only fact and data, it is also culture, history, identity, and fairness. Thank you, and I hope you understand my report.